Welcome to this very special edition of Monday Match Analysis, an emergency edition. It is not Monday. It is U.S. Open Draw Reveal Day, and for that, we welcome back to the program Daniel Scotti, Action Network's tennis writer. Scotti, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm excited. I'm hungry for the tournament. I'm very hungry.
Oh, yes. Aren't we all? Now, I actually have, I'm dressed for this interview. I have my U.S. Open 2013 ball boy jacket on. Did you get dressed up for the interview?
I'm ironically and coincidentally wearing a Lecoq Sportif shirt, but now I'm hearing you're ready to, fetch some balls. I feel like we should hit the court.
Yeah, we should. We definitely should hit the court. But first, let's talk about this draw. Let's get started. When you first looked at it, I think that everyone's first reaction was, holy crap, Djokovic is in Federer's quarter. Was that the first thing that sort of hit you when you looked at this draw?
It was one of the first things. Of course, when a 128-person draw, gets deployed, there are a few things that hit you. But, that was towards the top of the list for sure.
Yeah, I almost tweeted this out, and I didn't. But before the draw was released, I thought I would jinx it. It turned out not to matter. Please, no Djokovic in Federer or Nadal's quarter rather, because that annoys me when it happens. I want the best players in the semis, so I was hoping that didn't happen.
Yeah, but here's the deal with that. There's a little bit of a snafu with that, is that I'm not sure Federer, the way he's looked recently, would get to the semifinal or the quarter, if they were on opposite sides. So I think this is the way we get the best bang for the buck, because theoretically, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, we could get Novak Fed in the quarters, and then in the quarters rather, and then Novak, Sasha Cilic in the semis, and then Novak Nadal in the final. So we could spread ourselves out pretty nicely there.
Yeah, certainly no real complaints. I always root for if there's three guys, I want one of them in the semis instead of the quarters. But let's talk about Roger, because that was probably the second thing that generated the most buzz. Was it appears, and we'll dig deeper into it, but it appears Roger Federer couldn't have gotten much. His draw couldn't get much worse. Are you with me on that?
Yeah, he's got Kyrgios in the third round.
Yeah, so it would be
to get there, and then Fanini looming in the fourth round, and then obviously we just spoke about it, Novak potentially in the quarterfinals. It's
and
pretty tough draw.
Benoit Paire in the second, who took him to a third set tiebreak on grass earlier in the year.
Yes, I obviously noticed that Fournier and Benoit Paire were both in the same pocket of the draw, so that's going to be an exciting little region.
So the one thing is, let's go match by match here with Federer, because I think this is important, and a lot of people are talking about it and interested in it. So the third round match, Kyrgios. Where do you think Kyrgios is at, and how confident are you that Kyrgios gets to the third round? Because to me, I have trouble banking on Nick Kyrgios to string together wins at the moment.
Yeah, I do too, but I don't think his competition is anything specifically style-wise that will bother him. I don't think they have big enough serves. I think he'll lose against a guy with a bigger serve that could get cheap points on him if he's not trying, and he can kind of just get lulled to sleep with the the rhythm of the match. But I think with who has he got? Albert in the first round, and then either Bambry or Herbert in the second. He should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, Albert has both of those guys. I expect it to be Albert and Herbert. That's just kind of my hunch. I don't think Bambry, right? Herbert will be the favorite in that one. Albert he upset PCB in first round of Wimbledon. You're right about the serve. He's got no serve, but he's a guy who's put together some wins recently, and Herbert as well. Both of them are in decent form. And with Nick, I guess it's just about, I think that when he plays the top guys and he's focused, everyone knows he's dangerous. It's just a matter of will he stay focused and healthy in the first two rounds enough to play Federer?
Yes. Yeah, that's the short answer. I mean, anything's possible. He lost to whom? Was it Marchenko at the U.S. Open a few years ago? So, I mean, literally anything is possible. Right. If you're going to ask me, to give my pick on it, I think he gets to the third.
Okay, and The other thing is, it's been a little while since he's upset a big gun at the major, but it's the kind of thing where you know every once in a while Nick Kyrgios is going to do that. So how do you feel about his chances to upset Roger Federer in the third round?
I think that they're slightly less than his chances of getting upset by Radu Albat in the first round. I mean, as you just touched on, a guy like Kyrgios has almost like, ridiculously has more of a chance against the top four players than he does some, players sitting around 50 or, 75 in the rankings. Like he, as he puts it, gets up for those matches. So if he does get to the third round and Roger's there, buckle up. That's going to be a good match.
Yeah.
Always plays Roger tight.
I agree. Always close sets, a lot of tie breaks in
Always
that one.
tie breaks, yep.
Yeah, so many tie breaks. So that would be huge. Third round, probably like a Friday night, Labor Day weekend. That would be special. I am leaning that. I do have Kyrgios getting there, just to be clear, but a lot of the times people get ahead of themselves. Like if you remember at Wimbledon, everyone was looking forward to Coric playing Federer after beating him in the Hala final, but Coric had Medvedev first round. Everyone kind of looked past that, and you and I both know that that's a match that can go either way. So I just kind of want to hammer home the point that when it comes to players having tough draws and draw analysis in general, there's way too much looking ahead sometimes.
Yep, I agree with everything you just said.
All right. So here's the decision, Scotty. Are we going to go talk about Fed Djokovic, or are we going to go to the other side of the draw and cover Nadal a bit? I'm gonna go with you here. What are you feeling right now?
I want to touch on it. Let's touch on Novak. Let's touch on Novak Fed.
Okay, let's do it.
There's still stuff that I've been waiting, that's been on my mind, that I've just been waiting to vent. My therapy session is until next week, so this will have to do.
This will do. This is just as good. Believe me.
So here's the deal. I was stuck in a YouTube vortex, specifically a tennis YouTube vortex, just watching, those accounts that post the actual game tape of matches past. And I landed upon Fed Nadal last year at the Indian Wells final. And I know we all know how good Roger's been since coming back from that little, hiatus, if you will.
Yes.
But if you actually go back and watch that match, there are like 7 to 10 shots that are just like, how did he do that? And this is by not just by a tennis player's standards; these are by the Roger Federer standards. Mm-hmm. And it's the ones that stuck out to me was the backhand. And against Novak in that Cincinnati final, it just didn't. It didn't look even resemble the Roger I saw against Nadal last Indian Wells. But I mean, like levels below.
Yes.
Levels below. And I think it has to do with. I don't want to handcuff his age thing, but I think he looks a step slow. You?
Yeah, I think that he has looked a little bit slow, but I also think that the forehand is lacking confidence, even when he's set up, even when he's in the right place to hit that shot.
He's not putting it away.
He's not hitting his forehand well, and Roger's backhand improved immensely in 2017, but his offensive tennis still will only go as far as his forehand can take him. So that's the shot that I've pinpointed this year that I feel like has never been to the level that it needs to be. That's me.
Yeah. I agree. But the backhand for me, and I like that we kind of spotting different things, but the backhand he was taking so early. It's almost like his timing's off. Maybe he's getting to balls a half step slow or whatever it is. But his backhand, he was hitting these short angles with it for winners against Rafa Nadal. Yeah. And it's just a shot that I didn't see once in that Cincinnati final. And he does look like he's lacking confidence just in general with his game all around.
Right. The double faults are another thing that was shocking to see in two big moments in that match. So how much different do you think a U.S. Open best of 5 sets, Arthur Ashe Stadium, how different can that be than Cincinnati? So how does that change the way you look at that match, the fact that it will be under different conditions?
I mean, unfortunately, I think that it's not going to get any better at the U.S. Open because the conditions for Roger Federer at Cincinnati, they're quick-playing courts. Obviously, that suits Novak too, but it's going to suit Roger more typically. These U.S. Open courts, just also especially on Ashe, they're slower. So I've always thought that these courts are perfect for Djokovic. He gets to every single ball, and he's still able to play his offensive game and counterpunch. If they play in the quarterfinal, I think that 3-4 sets, Novak.
Yeah.
You remember those? We speak about this kind of often offline about those few matches that they played. A lot of them were finals in between 2014 and 2016, where and I don't want to use odds too much, but those were pick-em matches in the books, and they were straightforward 4-set Djokovic wins. So I'd expect more of that if Djokovic brings his A game.
Yeah, Djokovic A game, Federer A game. I agree with you. I don't think that there's that much rationale besides people's wishful thinking that Federer is going to be out for revenge, which isn't really a real thing that exists in sports. It's more of just a public conception kind of thing. There's nothing I can think of that would point to Federer having more success against Djokovic at the Open than he did against Cincinnati, besides him possibly playing better. But even if he plays better, I didn't feel like Federer was ever in that match at Cincinnati. So I think we both like Djokovic there, right?
Yes, but can I quickly just play a little devil's advocate with you?
Sure.
I agree that the revenge thing is is more so something for the fans than it is for the players. However, Federer hates Djokovic. He always has. Djokovic was the guy that came onto the tour and kind of took his spot. And I truly believe that Roger, doesn't like Djokovic. He respects him, all the things off the court, that's fine. Yeah. But as a rival and a competitor, I don't think he likes him, and I think that the revenge thing is a very real thing for Roger. When Roger loses confidence, he gets more angry than a guy like Rafa, who will just get more determined or try and ramp up the willpower. I think it does bother Roger. We've seen grumpy Roger in the past.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting. Do I think it'll be enough to take down Djokovic? I'm not sure, but I think that will be a storyline if they do play.
Yeah, Roger gets very he gets very uptight. He got very uptight, I believe, in Cincinnati, and there were even some people saying that his on-court demeanor looked different. Let's get to Rafa though. Do you feel like Rafa gets a pretty easy road, at least to the semifinals here? Because I have pinpointed one guy in his 8th, actually, that I feel can be really dangerous for him.
Who, Khachanov?
Hatchie.
Yeah. Khachanov's nice on slow. I love him on a slow hard court.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough match.
Khachanov, he's got the big serve. I think one of his weak points is probably his first serve return. Not that it's bad, but we're talking about Rafa Nadal, so you gotta pick weaknesses here. And then the other thing is, when Rafa plays a righty, I always prefer a player who favors the righty backhand, like Khachanov. I consider his backhand to be stronger than a stronger, more solid shot than his forehand. So Rafa goes cross court with his forehand, just like how that's a matchup issue against Novak. I like the big serve, big backhand combination. I love that against Rafa.
Yeah, I agree there. Now, you remember the match? You watched the Rogers Cup match they played?
Yeah, I did. It was pretty close. Was it 7-5, 7-5?
Sounds right. Maybe 7-5, 6-4, something like that. But what was impressive was that a couple games into that first set, you could kind of tell that Khachanov was redlining. I mean that with all due respect. Mm-hmm. You have to do that against Roger. You have to play on the front foot. Rafa, sorry. You have to play on the front foot, and he did. And he was able to maintain that level for the duration of those 2 sets. And I think he even got some pressure on Rafa's service games late in those sets. Those were tight sets, and I remember kind of as a Rafa fan, I was kind of nervous. It was a tight match.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has impressed me more in, let's call this period the U.S. Open series.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's really impressed me more than Khachanov when it comes to stock up, stock down. Besides maybe Stan Wawrinka, who's had a really good season. You know what I mean by season. American hardcourt swing. Khachanov is right up there as a guy who has really impressed me over the last month.
I agree, and they've been comprehensive wins. A lot of those impressive wins. I think back to the Isner match. That was straight sets. He's been beating defensive guys, the pushers, if you will, if I may. He's been doing it. He's doing it and doing it easily. So yeah, I expect to see both of them in that third round match, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Here's the thing with Rafa. I think besides Khachanov, and I made sure to outline that, he has my man David Ferrer in the first round, who probably won't give him a very close match. Lacko or Pospisil, and then outside of Hatchie, and we're also assuming that he makes the third round, he would need to beat Gilles Muller or a qualifier. I'm not sure who that'll be. After that, I don't think much is doing. You have Kyle Edmund and Jack Sock. Those are his potential seeds in the fourth round, both in terrible form. And then, well, let's start with that. So I feel like around Karen Khachanov, Rafa has it very nice.
Yep, I agree with that.
Okay.
I think you're being a little bit hard on my guy, nice guy Eddie, Kyle Edmund. Today was certainly a bad match for him. He got, taken to the woodshed by Stevie Johnson. It was 1-2 or something like that. But I like Edmund on these courts. I remember he upset Gasquet in the first round when Gasquet was a much different Gasquet. And he was a huge dog. Edmund, he hadn't really broke through yet. He's good on these courts. I like him on slower courts. I've said in the past, I think clay's his best surface. But he's not a grinder, so he's an attack first player. So I think that slow hard courts, in my opinion, probably his best surface, most ideal. And he went pretty deep here last year too. I think he beat Isner here. He did. I think.
I think
we'll
you're
have to check. We'll fact check that, but yeah, I think he played Novak and gave him a relatively tight match. So let's not look completely past Edmund.
Okay.
And again, he's another guy like Khachanov that looking way ahead. If they were to face each other at some point in this tournament, maybe the fourth round, I think it is. Yeah.
Yep.
And he's going for his shots, and he's able to redline for a bit with that big forehand. Who knows? I mean, let's just not, as we said earlier, let's not look way too ahead. Let's not rule anything out. So,
yes.
Edmund is on bad form, but he's dangerous.
I agree. Very dangerous. To be clear, he got sick. He fell very ill after Wimbledon, and I'm wondering if that's
you were the first on that. You were one of the quickest to kind of sniff that out. You didn't notice that.
Yep. I heard about that tonsillitis for a month, not practicing, and so he's still on the way back from that. Just to be clear, with Edmund. But you're right. When he gets going, he's extremely dangerous. Now on the other side, Rafa's seed is Kevin Anderson. But I don't think Kevin Anderson makes it to the quarterfinals. This is one of my upset picks. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about Shapovalov getting through Kevin Anderson?
Could I see it? Certainly. But it would take a huge match. He's a guy that honestly, and people, I feel like tennis people don't give him enough credit for this, or they think that his strokes are too big or unorthodox, but he's a guy that really handles pace off the ground very well, and he's able to counterpunch with the backhand. So if there were a lot of forehands going cross court to Shapo's backhand, he'll be able to kind of relaunch those, absorb the pace, and shoot him down the line and shoot him cross court at a short angle.
Yeah,
it'll be a tough match. He'll have to serve well. We've spoken about this too. Too many second serves with him. He doesn't get his first serve in nearly enough sometimes, and when that serve kind of leaves him, it almost looks like the rest of his game does too. I could see it though. Do I feel strongly about it to jump on board with you? And I'm not sure.
Okay.
Kevin Anderson's tough, and he really gets up for these slams. We saw it last year.
For sure. Kevin Anderson, he's not a guy who I'm normally looking out for to lose to a guy who he shouldn't lose to. He's more a guy who you can rely on to beat who he should beat, and then lose to who he should lose to, instead of, you have a ceiling with Anderson, but obviously a very high floor. The reason I like Shapovalov, just to be clear on this, I like Dennis fighting fire with fire. So I really like him. As you pretty much just mentioned, he's great at handling pace. That's kind of it. I think that he does a great job of playing offensive players and making them play defense and making them uncomfortable with just instant offense off the ground.
Certainly, yeah. No, I think we're on the same page with that one.
Okay, now we're gonna get to I believe a Scotti special based on the Twitter feed. You love Sasha Zverev in this tournament. Explain.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, first of all, when we spoke before about what jumps off the page, it was for me, honestly, the first thing I saw was Sasha's quarter, his little area. We look at the seeds over there. On his bottom half, it's Filip Krajinovic, who really didn't impress me. I watched his match last night against Ryan Harrison. It was pretty comprehensive for the American. Filip still looks a little rusty there with his ground strokes. And then Kei Nishikori, who we both kind of were on alternate sides when they met in D.C., and I really liked how Zverev came through that match. So if they were to meet in the best of five, I tend to fancy Sasha there too. Then elsewhere, you got Diego Schwartzman and Goffin in the middle of the draw. The two other seeds, 10 and 13. Guys that Sasha can hit through, and then Cecchinato and Manarino.
Yeah.
So I really don't see too much competition for Sasha until Marin Cilic in the quarterfinal, which will obviously be a good match. But I can recall matches past between those two. They're both big hitters, big serves. I think Zverev has a little bit more intangibles and versatility with his game. So I certainly wouldn't be backing down from that match if we were to get it. I'd be looking forward to it.
Definitely steadier than Cilic. I'm so on the fence about Sasha because this is a very unfamiliar position. We're used to Sasha coming into majors with no rest and a ton of confidence, and it hasn't really fared well for him. But he comes into the U.S. Open now extremely well rested with no confidence. So it's the exact reverse role. Do you like that for him?
First of all, I love that you brought that up because that's exactly what I was thinking when Tsitsipas knocked him out. I was like, thank God, because he had already won DC, right? Yeah, he won DC, and it was because if he got past Tsitsipas, I wouldn't bet against him to make another deep run in Toronto rather. So I was happy to see him lose because I wanted him to rest up. Just as you touched on, he seems to peak before slams. He did it against Novak in the Rome final. Again, I'm pretty sure that was what happened here in 2017. He served so well, and then once he got to the French, it seemed like he had all his good serves had left his own. And then later in the year, we saw him peak at Montreal. He straight setted Roger in the final, and then he was like the second or third biggest favorite to win last year, and we saw him leave early against George. So I'm happy to see him out. I trust him as a player, specifically as a big server, that he'll be able to do it. So give him time to rest. Let his body be fresh. I don't think confidence will be an issue with him. I think he's a guy that kind of oozes it.
I agree with that.
Just by the type of person he is. So I don't think he's going to be, hanging his head coming into this tournament. I think he's in a good place. And that was a large reason why I like him, finally. And, if you look at the specific matchups with him, I don't think he'll face someone in the first two rounds that will give him a marathon. Which is another problem with him. Beyond just peaking before slams, is he manages to get into these dog fights in like the first two rounds against mediocre players where he's going 5 sets and saving sets and that match points. Just, you know what I mean? How are you going to go deep in the tournament if you've already played 10 sets by the third round?
For sure. That is what is killing Sasha. He needs to dispatch these weaker opponents with way more ease. My thing on him has been consistent over the last year. To me, he doesn't feel close. He just doesn't. And we're in a place where he's still trying to make his first semifinal. He hasn't really, I don't think, he hasn't beaten the top. Who's the highest ranked player he's beat? I'm trying to think in a major. For a while, he hadn't beaten the top 4.
No one.
He hasn't beaten anyone.
Yeah, no one.
Yeah. He just doesn't feel close, which has me thinking that this is going to be, not sort of like a snap of the finger, all of a sudden Sasha's won a major. I'm anticipating like a slower build to major to Grand Slam prominence.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, you'd have to be insane to not agree with what you just said. But here's my thing with Sasha is that while he hasn't done that at a slam where he doesn't feel close, there have been isolated points over the past 2 years where whether it be that Rome final last year, which he won, or the other Masters he won last year in Montreal, where I've watched the Federer match specifically in Montreal, and I was just like, this kid he's got to be. You put the big 4, big 5 aside, this kid's the next guy to win a slam, and nothing could tell me otherwise. He was hitting so big off the ground, so confidently, so aggressively, so precisely, and just serving so big. How are you going to beat a guy like that? So I'm trusting my own memory, if you will, about what I've seen from Sasha. and I'm going to apply it to this tournament. I think if he brings that Montreal 2017 level next week, he's got as good a shot as anyone, man. And I'm including the big four there, big five.
Yeah. For me, I'm just wondering if you agree on this. I think the biggest thing he needs to do is he needs to develop his forehand and do some weapon building there, because it's just not a shot you have to be too concerned about from an offensive perspective when you're playing him.
Yes, most of the time. And this is something that if people follow, no one's going to know the tweet. I tweeted about it last year. Towards the end of the year, he was really, really struggling. And in one of those first matches that kind of he started the slump, I had just noticed that his forehand had zero venom. It was looping up. It was staying short in the court. And I was just like, this isn't Sasha Zverev. And it played a mind trick with me because, like you said, it doesn't look like an offensive shot. However, during those isolated points where I'm confident in his game, as I just mentioned, his forehand's large and in charge, flattening it out, hitting over it. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's generally really good
to pull it out.
Yeah, I think generally, and we're gonna move on from Sasha, but I think in general he's pretty good when he's inside the court, especially when he's just hit a serve. So, like, I think he uses it as a first strike weapon pretty well, but it's in the return games when he finds himself in a more defensive court position. I don't find him using his forehand to actually advance his position in the point. I would say that's my...
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. I really wanted to pick Delpo to win this tournament after I saw what he did hardcourt season after the Australian Open, and then when everyone was sort of forgetting about him, Wimbledon, French Open, where I thought that he had a decent showing there considering the circumstances and considering I don't really like his game for grass that much. So I was primed to go with Juan Martín del Potro to win this U.S. Open, but the wrist stuff has me just really afraid of that and not very confident. Where are you at with del Potro?
The exact same line of the exact same page. Yeah, he's a guy that after, I think it was Miami where he beat Roger this year.
Yes. No, it was Indian Wells, the final, Indian Wells.
Didn't? Oh, that was the semifinal where Roger played George? Indian Wells?
Yes, that was. And then Delpo in Miami lost to Isner in the semis, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. After that Federer match where he went toe-to-toe with him, and again, this was Federer of March or February, whenever Indian Wells is, when he was a much different player, much more confident player, dare I say invincible. He's, in terms of people on tour that could beat him. And Delpo took it to him. So, yeah, I was high on him then. I was high on him post-Wimbledon. I was high on him until you told me about the wrist injury. And then that's when I started worrying about it because I don't think, regardless of how cracking his big serve and forehand are, you can't win 7 best-of-5 matches without a backhand, slicing things back. You just can't.
Yeah, I do think he can make the semis because he doesn't. I actually think that he's got one of the better draws, unless you're really terrified of Coric or Tsitsipas. Then I think Delpo. On the other side, it would be Isner, Wawrinka, possibly Raonic. So he's looking pretty good to make the semis, in my opinion. I do have him making the semis. He did it last year without a great topspin backhand.
He beat Federer. He beat Federer. Yeah, no. And let me write the record. It's definitely possible. And for a while there, before he did start hitting over the backhand and putting some injecting some pace into it, where I'd kind of come around on his new game, if you will, just because of how good the forehand is. If you physically can slice enough balls back to find a shot where you can hit your forehand and then just hit it like Delpo does, fine, so be it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it made his forehand better.
There were two,
because he knew he had to do so much damage.
You said.
Yeah.
There were 2 names you said that I'm not so sure he gets through. 2 of them.
Should I guess?
I think
go.
You can get it.
Okay, I'd say it's Isner and Wawrinka. No, so
wrong
it's
on
Raonic.
both of them. It's Coric and Tsitsipas.
Oh, okay.
Coric.
Who do you think's winning that match? That's one of the toughest calls. That's a tough call for me.
I think whoever wins that match can give him a run for his money.
Okay. Let's hit on Cilic really quick, and then we'll get to Stan and Andy. Then I'm going to just fling 3 upsets at you because we did really well at Wimbledon with that. So we're going to try that again, and then we'll get out of here. So Cilic, I think that he's got first round, second round, 2 pretty tough guys. And I would not, it would feel weird if Cilic had a repeat of Wimbledon, which was such a disappointing result. But he has Marius Copil in the first round, who has beat him once. Cilic has lost to him once, both 3-setters. And Copil's playing really well right now. And then, it's not the second round. It's the third round. He could draw de Minaur or Tiafoe.
Yeah.
How confident are you about Cilic getting through that?
I think he'll get through Copil in the first round, but you hit it on that. They'll probably play a tight match. I could see a 7-setter too, a deep set. But I don't think Copil. I think Copil's a guy that kind of excels more in these smaller tournaments. I don't think he's a best-of-5 guy. So I'm not so worried about Copil. De Minaur or Tiafoe, 2 guys that I think could trouble him in the third round. We saw last year Cilic struggle against another defensive baseliner, Diego Schwartzman. Mm-hmm. And you just saw him. If you get enough balls back against Cilic, he'll more than likely hit an error first.
Yes.
If you can run him down, and that's a big tall order against Cilic, just to make him play a lot of balls back because of the offensive aspect of his game, obviously. But if it gets there, both those matches could get tight. Do I feel a lively upset? Not really.
Okay. Stan and Andy, I feel pretty strongly about this question, but who do you think has a better tournament? The 2 walking wounded.
I don't know, man. It's bizarre. There have been so many matches where I'm like, I can't see Murray winning more than 1 or 2 games throughout the match.
It's the heart.
And he goes out and wins them somehow. The guy can't even walk, and yet he's able to win points. So I feel kind of funny almost ruling out Andy. Having said that, I've been so impressed by Stan over the past few weeks that I wouldn't put it past him making a kind of deep run at the tournament.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Stan would basically he'll face big servers. He'll face Raonic and Isner very likely, which I don't love because he's got the block return. But so I almost feel like he got some bad luck with his draw. But I do think that he's in good enough form to make a quarterfinal again.
It's funny you say that though, because I was literally ready to interject and say I like his game against big servers because of the block return. He's able to. It's something that I wish a guy like Thiem would pick up, and I've said this in the past, especially. And they both have the big one-handed backhand.
Yeah.
Get the serve back. Try and work your way back to a neutral rally, and then take it from there. So I kind of like. I'm on the other side of the fence there. I kind of like him against big servers. So
okay.
I'm not so worried about his draw. I think he got a decent draw. Aside from Dimitrov in the first round, which I think he'll be favored going into that match. Having said that,
I agree. I favor Stan in that as well. Okay, let's get to the second weekend pretty quick. Let's skip over to the final. I'm expecting a Rafa Nole final.
Chalk. That's chalky, but yeah.
I know, but that is what I'm expecting here. Now, I actually think that. I don't even know. Maybe this isn't a bold statement at all, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. There are, and Novak's early rounds look okay, but I think that Federer or Nadal, I think that it's very. I'm kind of feeling one of them to get upset before the semis.
Yeah, and despite everything, still kind of feel like it's Nadal. To be upset before the semis. Yeah, be upset. Yeah,
it's a lot of pressure. I think that defending titles is difficult. I mean, does that factor in for you when a guy's defending a title? Like, I don't like that pressure on Rafa going into this tournament.
Yeah, and he's such an emotional player, and
Very.
His mind is working a mile a minute always, which is why he's such a great competitor. But yeah, I do think that plays a factor with him. Again, tying back into that, he is such a good competitor. I don't think it's going to be an adverse thing for him. But I just think beyond the idea of defending, I just think his game is so dependent on effort and grinding out that if a guy comes out, plays their A game in red lines, he's there to be beat.
Yes.
We've seen it in the past.
Right.
A guy like Verdasco, someone like that, they're not going to play. But just using him as an example of a type of player that could upset him at a slam.
Yeah.
And look at the seeds in his quarter: Shapo, Thiem, Edmund, Sock, Hatchnop. I'm not going to say anything more about these players beyond the fact that they're all shot makers.
Yep.
And they're all guys capable of having a win on their racket. And that's who you need to beat Nadal. So it's an easy pass-ish. But if a guy catches fire, and any one of those names that I just mentioned, you never know.
I'm with you. I have Shapo to the quarters,
and,
by the way.
And Anderson
We've talked about that.
And Anderson
in
that quarter, I forgot about, of course.
Yeah, who he handled. He's handled really easily in their last two best-of-5 meetings.
Yeah, of all those names that I just mentioned, I think Anderson's the least potent. I'm talking about a guy because he's never going to look to redline, really. He plays too solid of a game from the baseline.
Right.
But would you be that shocked if Sock, despite how bad he's been,
yes,
going to be almost
I'd be
irrelevant?
I'd be stunned. I would be stunned. I don't think Sock has any feel for singles tennis right now. I really don't. Like I think he's lost out there.
But I don't think you need feel if you're going for lines every single shot, which is what he'd probably do anyway. It would either be
maybe on one side, maybe on his forehand, maybe on his forehand. But you got to hit a backhand too, right? So his backhand is anyway. Let's not get into this.
Fine.
Let's not get into this. But okay,
it would take too long. And I don't want to be pigeonholed to the Sock battle, please.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, you don't want that. Okay, so I'm actually I've said that there's gonna be a Raffinole final. I'm gonna save my pick for part 2 of this preview. But you can go ahead and if you have one yet. I mean, this is still early on. The draw just pretty much came out 4 hours ago. Do you have a pick to win though?
Yeah, I have Sasha to win.
Sasha to win. Okay, this would be huge.
And I have dark horses too that I think are a notch or two less likely than my safe picks.
Yes.
And they were the two guys you mentioned, George and Tsitsipas.
Okay, interesting.
So George, Tsitsipas, that's it.
Okay. I'm gonna give you 3 upsets now. You're gonna tell me if you like them or if you don't. Last time I think I gave you 5, so I'm a little bit slacking here, but I think that we hit like 4 of them. It was very good. Wimbledon.
We had a good showing.
Yes.
Needless to say.
Yes. Okay. We actually already talked about one though. So Shapo over Anderson, yay or nay?
I think a sophomore slump may be in the works. I also think, talking about pressure, I think a kid like Shapovalov at 20 is more likely to wilt than a guy like Nadal defending. And after Shapo kind of stealing headlines last year, he's got a lot to defend, even though it's not a title. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say nay.
Okay. Istomin over Thiem?
Nay.
Okay. And Noah Rubin over Chung?
Like the hardest of nays.
Hardest of nays.
And then not even speaking. Yeah, nay.
Okay.
Keep it short. Nay.
All right. Let's see what happens here.
3 nays.
Last time I got a lot of yays.
Yeah.
And okay, so it worked out. So I don't know. Maybe now I'm not feeling as good.
I want more upsets.
It's very early. I know. It's very early right now, and there will be more to come. Let's see, what else do I have? I'll look. I'm always what always ends up happening. Oh, what about? Oh well, I told you TFO over Cilic. You're like halfway on board on that.
Yeah, I'm halfway on board with that, but I think the Cilic. Yeah, I mean, it would take a lot from TFO to knock out Cilic. I think Cilic, after a poor performance here last year, obviously he has a U.S. Open title in his back pocket. I think he has at least the quarterfinal this year.
Okay, yeah, we'll see with Cilic. He needs a big tournament after Wimbledon. All right, so that just about does it for us. Did we miss anything? I think we got everything.
Maybe some sleepers.
Okay.
I just want to quickly say Pablo Carreno Busta is back. Okay, we can leave it at that if you want to keep things moving. But I've been really impressed by PCB. He always does well at Winston-Salem, it seems. He always seems like him or RBA, one of the three named Spaniards that does well there. And he's a guy that made the quarterfinal last year, and he took a set off Kevin Anderson. So I really think he could have another good tournament. His courts are built for him. They think that they see the three Spanish names. They think he's a clay court grinder, and it really isn't the case with him. I think he's perfectly suited by these courts.
He's had a tough year, and it's taken a little while, but I agree that he's definitely
a late season guy.
Yep, he's dangerous in this one for sure. Do you have any plans? Do you know before we go? Like, have you made what will your U.S. Open attendance look like this year?
I'm going to try and make it after the quarterfinal day.
Okay.
That's always a day I have circled. Ideally, I'd be there from first ball to last on the first day. It's kind of reminiscent of March Madness and, the Manic Monday, if you will, where it's just like you turn around and there's 2-3 matches on either side of you. So that's always a fun day to go. I'd love to be there if I can, swerve something at work. But those 2 days are big, and if anyone has tickets for the semis or finals and, slings them my way, I won't turn them down.
DMs are open, right?
Putting that out there.
Your DMs are open.
Yeah.
At Scotti Pippen. All right. We've went extremely long. I kind of knew it would happen, but it happened. 40.
Well, it feels like it's been eight minutes.
I know. This is what happens. But it's great to hear your voice again. Thanks for coming back on.
Yeah, I miss you, buddy. Hope all's well, and good luck with everything. But we'll be talking during the tournament.
Yes, we'll be talking, and I'll see you around Thanksgiving time.
All right, buddy.
All right, bye. Okay, that was the one and only, the very sharp Scotti Pippen. Hope you enjoyed that one. Part 2 coming up, most likely on Sunday, where I'll go quarter by quarter, give a winner, give a dark horse, maybe give a popcorn match, all that good stuff. Until then, hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.